Here's my strategy. I've identified the problem, and that, of course, is the dishwasher's not cleaning dishes and the inside's not turning. I turned it on and I pulled the door open real quickly and nothing's spinning, there's no water dripping. I'm going to try to find where the diagnostics are in the dishwasher, if it has any. And then hopefully there's an easy way to find the problem. And then, of course, it may be not as easy, which means I have to start taking apart motors and pumps and stuff. Always with appliances, it can be challenging to find parts. And the reason that is the model numbers for the parts change over time. I'll show you a little bit more on what I mean by that. And also, model numbers can be the same between different brands. And most importantly, reassemble it correctly. My dishwasher is a Kitchenaid. It's owned by Whirlpool. Of course, Whirlpool out of the USA sells under a variety of brand names. There are different types of parts and different types of features. My Kitchenaid parts are harder to find, but when I did some searching, I found a part under the Whirlpool product number that says it's compatible with my Kitchenaid model numbers. There were some Amana parts showing up that would work with the Whirlpool Kitchenaid also, and you can see why that is, same manufacturer. Hotpoint, interesting enough, in some geographies manufactured by Whirlpool and some by Haier out of China and sold in different geographies. You can see Electrolux has some popular brands you'd see, LG and Samsung, Bosch, Middleby, and there's some brands I haven't heard of before, but I'm not sure if this is 100% accurate. I think it is, and there are other brands, but sometimes when you find a product that you're looking for with a part number, it may be cheaper under one of the other brands. The Whirlpool parts that I found were cheaper than some of the Kitchenaid parts, and it's the same exact part, different packaging, different model number. So keep that in mind when you're searching for parts to repair. Some guy said, look underneath here, take the screws out, and there's a panel, and it may have the debugging mode for your dishwasher. Bing, 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 bing. There it is, a manual. Here's a schematic that was hidden underneath the dishwasher for service technicians use only. This page goes through a lot of pinouts of where you would put your voltmeter on to check certain things, and a bit of a hardware diagram. So I'm not going to go over that in this video. I did check a few things, but I want to start a little bit on more of the diagnostic side, which would lead you to check some of these. And that's this little chart here. There's a key sequence you can push on the dishwasher when you open the door. It says 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You have to determine what button number 1, 2, and 3 are. I'll show you what it is on my dishwasher. They're pretty similar in other models in that family of Whirlpool washers. But when you do that 3 times with the door open and shut it, of course the water's on and it's plugged in, it's going to run from test 25 all the way down to test 1. It's going to tell you what lights up and tells you how long each one of those tests are, 6 seconds, a minute, and 21. And it tells you a little bit more information about checking the temperature sensor, check intervals, and a little bit more detail. It took me a while to understand how this works. I found a couple videos online. But basically, after it turns on, there's 4 stations, 24 through 21, each a minute 21. They're going to repeat 3 times each, and they're going to display 4 possible error codes that it's finding in your system. On mine, it found, what was it, 6.1 and 8.2? I think that's what it was, or 6.2 and 8.1. And it showed it in the first 2 stations, and then it didn't show anything else, no other error codes. Then it goes down and checks everything else, and then finally it'll come back and run those 4 again, or at least 2 of them, printing out any error codes that are left over. I ran automated. You can stop it by, after you press it, the three buttons 3 times. You hit high temp, dry, high temp, dry after starting cycle, then press start, resume to advance through the cycle intervals. I didn't go through manual because it's kind of weird. You have to try to figure out and make sure you know how many times you're clicking this to know how many times you moved over. Similarly, when it's automated, you have to have a little watch running timer that says, okay, 6 seconds passed, I know I'm going to station 24. Now 121 plus 6, so at 127 I'll go to station 23. Okay? When you find out the error, then you turn on the back page and it lists. So for instance, mine was 6.1. So you have a major code, function code, and a problem code. And mine was 6.1, and it tells you, oh, the inlet water, something's wrong. Number 6 is inlet water. The 1 could be low, no water, mechanical problem. A 6.2 means fill valve is the problem. 6.3 means suds, air in the pump. 6.4 is the float switch is open. And it continues over here, and then 6.7 and 6.8. So I had error code 6.1, and then I have error code 8.2. And 8.2 is drain motor electrical problem. So something's wrong with drain motor electrical problem. Okay, so yeah, and then when you have a 6.1, it'll tell you there's causes are no water to the dishwasher, bowl or pots filled, drain loop detached, and then it tells you what to check and so forth. So I went through that, and between the 6.1 and I believe it was the 8.2, I tried some things, and you'll see in the video what I came around to doing, but that's how you read this. So you have a big diagnosis chart instead of problems. Not too bad once you realize when you run in automated mode over here, you just have to watch this thing and what numbers it puts out. And it puts out numbers by flashing an LED clean word 6 times, pause, and then 1 time, or 8 times, pause, 2 times. So that fails if nothing comes out here and nothing comes out with the sort of procedure document back here, then you're going to have to go and start getting the voltmeter out and testing things. Fortunately, I didn't have to get this far. So look in your unit and see if you find that on the bottom, and you may be able to find this document online also. And I guess that's the tech sheet number. See, it's a Whirlpool number, begins with W, for my Kitchenaid. Okay, so you can see that number if you have to search for this document. Okay, I'm going to enter diagnostic mode, and the way you do that is you hit these 3 buttons in a row 3 times. When a button lights up, go to the next one, and you don't want to pause more than a second between them. Everything lights up, and then we shut the door. And we're going to keep an eye on here. 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. 1. Okay, so that means 6.1. 6-1. It should show that 3 times. So it repeats an automatic motor repeats the error code 3 times, and then it'll move another setting and it'll look for another error code. So you should see 6 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 -1. So now it should see if it can pick up another error. 2, 3, 7, 8. 8-2. Okay, it'll repeat that 3 times. So that's the first set of tests, the second set of tests, and I'll do number 3 and number 4. And it'll go on and on all through all the tests. You can see it's clean again. And you can hear it filling. And then when it goes through all the tests, it'll look for errors again and it'll display those. So we're going to take the racks out. This one just pulls out and lift it out. So these top shelves, they just lift out here. There's 2 of them. And there we go. That comes out. Okay, the first thing we're going to check is the insides draining area and underneath here where the water circulates to make sure it's not clogged. And this thing spins. I'm going to take the spinner off and make sure it's not clogged. Take this bottom set of blades off when you have to grab this round thing and turn it. And just use a wide opening pliers. It just turns a bit counterclockwise. There you go. And it comes out. And you can see this looks clean. There's no buildup. A little bit of paper here, some kind of paper or plastic. Have to clean that out. Now to get this top spinner off, it just pops in here. You can see there's a little clamp area. You're just going to pull it out with your finger. Comes out. And then there's one on the back here. Right here. Push that metal tab back and that pops out. The whole thing comes out. And these just pop out. And that one popped out and then this one comes out. Okay, they both pop out like that. And the whole piece comes out. And you can check, make sure these aren't clogged. You just run some water through there, make sure they come out right. Okay, this middle piece, this little tab, it just pops up, goes over this little hump, and you turn this whole unit like that. And then nothing in there. Then this little white piece here pulls out, and you can check down in here for goop. This little strainer has a tab here. Just push it, and this pops out. And look down in here and clean it also. There's 2 screws here. They have a star head on them. You can see. I'm going to take those out. Okay, and then you're looking down here. Now, this is the second time I've taken this off. This was full of white, looked like a wet napkin or paper towel or something. There was quite a bit in here and I cleaned it out. You can still see some remnants of it here. Water, I believe, goes in underneath this or comes out, I'm not really sure. And there's a hole here also. You can feel it's kind of warm down in here. So you have a hole here and hole here. I suspect the water's draining here and it comes in here because it probably comes in here at force and spins this. And remember that cap is on here, so not only is it going to spin the bottom set of blades, but it also is going to go to the top of the washer and spin those. I don't know what this is, some kind of sensor, some kind of clear housing on it. Be careful this isn't hot when you start working on it, this heating element. You can see some of this stuff. I mean, it's not too bad, but there is stuff in here. I'll clean it out. Okay, so we pulled everything out of this section. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong. Clean parts off. The next thing is this. When this tank fills up, this rises up. And this doesn't work, the sensor doesn't work, then your washing machine is going to overflow. But I read where if you just lift it a little bit, you can hear it clicking. That's the contact switch. On my model, I think I have to reach underneath and loosen the screw to take this off. But I don't think this is the problem. This is not overflowing. It seems like it just won't hold the water. Water never gets above here now. It should come up higher. And I'm thinking that it's the drain. The error codes are 6.1 and 8.2, which implies that it's not getting water, and it's either the pump or the motor or something. So I'm going to take the washer out and inspect some things underneath there. But first, I'm going to look at the inlet valve, make sure the water coming in isn't being blocked. You see under the cabinet next to the washer, I have a water hose I'm going to shut off. It's right here. And my electrical is hardwired to the house. It's not a plug. So I'll turn this one clockwise, shut it off. Double check that the power's off. Nothing works. My washer is attached on the sides here. Screw on each side. Holds it in place. And on this bottom kick plate, I have a screw on each side also. You can use a Phillips or hex head to take that off on both sides. And this will pop out. Should have some insulation attached and soundproofing. Alright. Let's see a little goop inside here. Okay, you see where the water comes in here and the electrical comes in this box. I could check the water inlet by taking this nut off here on the side, the green nut down here, and just pulling it out a little bit. So if you're just checking that, you're not going to have to, most likely, you're not going to have to take this off. I have a lot of play in mine. Depends how much hose you have, an electric line. I could pull it out about a foot and get to it, but since I'm going to go inspect the bottom here, I'm just going to do it when I get the washer all the way out. Next step is to loosen these leg adjustments. So when you're going in the opposite direction and reinstalling everything, you want to get this high enough and make sure it's level to the bottom of your counter the way you want it, and then put the screws in the side mounting screws. Now that I have the legs, you can see how unbalanced it is from a vertical alignment perspective. I have both of the legs up. Next thing I'm going to do is take this water off. Have a towel underneath there in case some water comes out. A little dripping. Okay. Now let's take the electrical box off. And this little nut is a 1/4 inch hex head. And this will pop off. I'm going to open that up and take the wires off so we can slide everything out. Oh, I see. It slides. These are sliders, so this has to slide. There we go. And once you look at it enough, it makes sense. It just pushes on and slides. Okay. Take the ground off. Make sure remember how this went back on. The ground is just looping around this little washer. Take the wire nuts off. Black goes to gray. White goes to white. And so we have the black and white coming in this little adapter over here. And we have the white and black coming in from the power line. So this side goes to the dishwasher, and this side comes from the house. Okay? So we don't have to take this all apart. We just got to be careful when we slide it out. It's not dragging everywhere. It gets caught up in anything. I'm probably going to just pop it back into its spot back in here. Okay, so wire is going to go back there. And we'll put this back in here. This little tab gets put in that hole back there. Okay, I'll just hand tighten this screw right here to hold this in here. Yeah. All right, let's slide out the washer. And we have to take the drain hose off of the garbage disposal. There's a little clamp holding it on. And that just pulled right off. That's weird. And we have pushed the drain hose almost all the way back through the hole where it comes out so that we can get the dishwasher. We have to push it all the way, I suppose. Okay, the theory is this should slide right out now. So if we want to make sure the water inlet is working correctly, we'll take this off and inspect it. The way to do that is to take this nut off right here. You can use a wrench. It's a big plastic nut here. Take that off, and there's a washer also. And then you come out here, this just comes apart. This unhooks here, and these just are hooked in between these plastic clamps. And then you can take this off and look in here, make sure it's not occluded with anything. Pretty clean. You can flush water through this and make sure it's okay. It just comes off here with a little clamp. Let's put it back on. Okay, when we put it back on, we just clamp these on. There's a little groove in the plastic. That thread pushes through this hole. And then we'll take this washer and nut. Washer, it's on the inside of the nut, and screw it back on and tighten it up. All right, and make sure this is clamped on here. Let's peek under the rest of this water inlet to see what's happening. You can see this right here. This is some kind of valve when it's time to put the water in, and this is where our water inlet attaches to. When I ran my diagnostics, this is working because I'm not testing this because I didn't get an error on it, and the dishwasher filled. So you can see right here on this water inlet harness, the black connects to that little switch. I don't think it's a pump, I think it's just a switch, I'm not sure. But that water comes in from the outside through here into here and just dumps right into the washer on that nut on the other side that I cleaned. Okay, and so we'll just put that back. Let's just tuck this in here and have the insulation come out like this. Make it look nice. It's also noise reduction. So there you see the three things that hold it in there: the drain hose, the white tube, the metal stainless input water line from under your sink, and then the electric cord. And then once you get that, the unit's actually quite light. I mean, it's basically a hollow box. And I just pulled it out and laid it down on a towel on its back. Be careful, it is, like I said, just a hollow box. But you don't want to lean on it in unnatural ways. Put pressure on it to bend the shape out. Keep some towels around because you're going to have the lines draining. Alright, I pulled this little boot out of here. This one up inside of here. I'm going to take this piece off, disassemble it, and make sure it's clean. Pinch the size of this plug. That pulls out. This one pulled out from here. So now we just have this one hose connected. Another plug. It's not part of this. If I recall right, this is a one-time use clamp here. So let's see if we can get that off. Okay. Yeah, that clamp don't know if I can use a C-clamp to replace it or not. I have to buy the specialized clamp. Okay, we got this unit off. Let's take it apart, see if it's clogged. Yeah, it looks like these two areas are where, I don't know which one goes in which direction. This might be the drain, and this might be the fill going in to power the arms inside the unit. But there's two, just like in the top. Okay, let's take these clips off. Mark this one blue so we know which one it goes to. Oh, that's a problem. That's all messed up. Well, maybe this is the problem. This would have to be turning, and if all that stuff is bent in there, it's all popping out. It's not able to turn. Be careful of this sharp stainless steel screen. That's weird. It's all bent. It's broken. The good news is that's an easy replacement. Hopefully this is the problem with the unit. This is all messed up. I'm thinking it got stuck. It wouldn't spin on the bottom. Okay. Look inside here. I mean, that's still moving. There's no grinding or anything. No gunk. I'm not going to take this off. I don't think I need to look any further. And you see there's sort of gunk everywhere, different places. I don't know if it's paper or if it's soap cube, soap tablet stuff. But you have it apart. Well, it looks like paper. You know it's not plugged up, but I'll get it all off before I assemble it. Okay, that gasket looks good still. Alright, let's go online and see what we have here. My theory is this is not going to spin. Even if this turns on, there was a low hum. This was stuck. This is stuck. I don't think the water is going to go through because that needs to flow. Okay, Mr. Joe's here. We're going to test the inlets to the motor. What's it reading?
70 ohms.
Okay, so it's got continuities. Therefore, what does that mean on this motor? That, what'd you call them? The findings?
The windings.
The windings.
The windings are okay.
The motor windings are okay.
You can also check it this way.
That's reading about 6970.
Yeah.
So it looks like the motor's good, and then we have this thing here that we tested and we got nothing. What is this?
It's a transformer.
Transformer?
Drops the voltage down.
Okay, because it has no PCB. What's a PCB?
Polychlorinated biphenyls.
Oh, there you go. So it drops the 120 down to something else for the motor?
Yeah, it actually doesn't even say on there.
Okay, well, we think that's good. We think this is good. This looks intact. There's a little device here. So that's a timer, 5-minute, 30-minute on off. No way to test that, but I think that works because when I ran the diagnostics on the unit, it didn't mention anything about that. It was just focused on pump and water. Something wrong with the pump. When I took this apart, there's a little clip that goes on here, and I just pushed it off with a small screwdriver, little C-clip. It fits on the end here, like that, and I push this down. Okay, so I pushed this down, and everything came out. This unit came out. And when it came out, a bunch of other things popped out. So this was on here somehow with the screen around it. Then this popped out. Looks okay. This thing popped out. Got little holes on the side. I don't know if it's a gear or what. There's a little spring. It's a piece of rubber and another little washer type thing. Found the part online. Taken 2 days. It should come tonight. Just waiting for it to show up. Okay, I got the new piece in. Here it is. It's Kitchenaid washer by Whirlpool Corporation certified parts. Cost me about $100. When I took this one apart, took it out, I didn't record all of it, but a couple things appeared. I know where this goes and this goes and this goes. And of course I know where the screening goes, but I didn't know where these 4 things go. The 2 washers, a spring, and this black little disc. When I look in the new one, I can see I don't know if you can see it, I can see the black disc up in there. So that's not going to go anywhere else. Similarly, when I look in the bottom here, and I look in the bottom of this, I can see, I guess it's broken, I can pull it out. You can see it's the shape of one of these washers. See the little tab on the bottom? And the washer looks like this. So I guess if there's one, there's 2 in there. And I presume the spring goes up between them or something. And on the new piece, all this stuff is put, this thing spins. Yeah, so this bottom spins, and you can see when it spins, it turns this screen, and it's, like I said, it's held on with that little C-clip. So I think this and this and this and these, they will all go together as one part, and then you replace all of that with these. In other words, the spring and these little washers are not from somewhere else that fell off here. I looked on the parts list. I didn't see these listed anywhere. So we're going to give that a try. All right, let's reassemble this. This thing will spin and turn this little screen around. Just keep in mind that this piece here has 3 little tabs sticking up, and they're slotted, which means something can slide back in here. We're going to need to align those in a little bit, but for now I'm just going to put those like here, relation to this slot. You can see my finger going across here, my screwdriver. It's a little bit closer, but I want to remember where they are in case I need them. Next, we're going to add this piece back on. This little curved piece hits this tab here, and a little ledge hits this part, slides in there, and you have an opening here. You have this metal piece. It's going to go into this tab space here like this. It's sitting there. So we put this back on. Put this tab in. Make sure it's seated correctly. And it goes on the outside of this spinning area. These little tabs that spin. We're putting our new piece. This tab is going to line up with the other two tabs, but you also have these little lips underneath here. And they're going to catch on these right here. So you don't want to have these, let's just put it without the other two pieces. You don't want to sit on top of them. You want to be in an opening right here because they're going to end up sliding underneath here. So I see it, the tab right here. I put this in. Then it's going to fit. And you can see symmetrical gap there. Let's move it a little bit. Yeah, so we'll push that on there. So now it's hitting. This little piece here is hitting this. I pushed it too far. We push it back a little bit. Here we go. You can see it's nice. Gap is similar on the top here. So I'm going to lift that up and leave this positioned here. Put this first piece of plastic back on. Fits over that. Put this piece of metal back in. Fits down in there. And then this should fit perfectly again. There we go. Everything lines up. And if you turn down here, right here, this little wheel, you can put your finger on this foil or this aluminum and you can feel that little screen turning. Okay. So did you get that? Make sure on the piece that turns, the three tabs are going to line up with this thing correctly. The new piece I bought. Line it up first, insert this, lift it back out, put the piece of plastic, then the metal, and put your little pump filter back in here. Alrighty, let's turn this. Because now we're looking for another tab here for the top of the pump. So we're going to put this housing pump top back on. And it's going to line up this tab here inside of this spot. So we'll push it down. It should be a snug fit. There is like a washer O-ring down in here that it's becoming snugged on, and I'm going to screw this in, but that keeps the water from leaking out. When you put these screws back on, I don't know if I mentioned this is a star head. So I don't know what size it is, but I have a whole set of them. I just picked one that fits. Do a little bit on each side. Sure. Here we go. Okay, we got the top back on. When I reconnect the hose, it's still in the bottom of the washer. This is the clamp that came off. I don't even know what these are called, but you put them on and you get a crimper and this holds over this little set of pins here. I saw quite a few videos online and they stopped using these clamps and they just replaced them with these circle clamps. So that's what I'm going to use. I have a bunch of them. I can open it up and Try to get a good tight fit on there. These are a bit thinner, so we want to make sure we can clamp on where those threads are, where the hose is going to be. So we have to at least get that far back in there like this. That should work perfectly. I've cleaned up this rubber boot somewhat. Got most of this solids off. There are some stains, but it looks pretty intact. It's not drywood, and it's going to go on top of here. Okay, make sure it's on there well, seal it. There are 3 attachment points. One is this big hole here where the water passes through. Second is this flexible tube. I put that new circle clamp on. And the third is there's a slot here. There's a piece of rubber in a slot, and there's a little bracket on that pump housing that's going to slide up in here. And that's the primary way it's held in here, is through this slot. And then attached here and here, there's no screws holding the system in. As I'm prepping this, I notice also there are these 3 wing tabs, one here and one over here, that hold this whole unit in. Well, this one's loose, came all the way down. Well, if all 3 come down, this is going to come out. So I don't see the screw moving, but I'm going to tighten that a little bit, make sure they can't loosen up. I didn't study how to change that piece, but I don't think they should be flopping like that. I turned that just enough to keep it from moving so much. If you're going to replace that, go see how tight they have to be. Okay, let me reorient this so you can see again. This goes into here. This connection here is going to go into this tube. And it's this slot, metal slot, that's going to come up into the back of this, like that. All right, let's give it a try. Go in this slot first. Pull this tube out of the way. Go in the slot. At the same time, we're going up into here. Okay, I'm going to try it a different way. This boot has to be flush, and it was too hard to do that. So I'm going to put this on here first. Make sure it's flush all the way in the back. And then I'll attach it to this top here. Okay. I just used a universal whack-a-mole. Got it. I peeked around here, and this is all the same distance, just a tiny gap that looks like it's in there firmly. Now we're going to try to pull this into here again, put this metal in the slot, and put this hose on top of the piece of plastic. The hose out of the way. Get that inside that little slot. Come up. Wiggle it on. Okay, trying again. I'm pushing this on here first because this has to come down pretty far. And with the gasket already up here, it's hard to get this into its slot. So what I'm going to do is put this on, get the outer pin in here, and I'm just going to get pliers and pinch it to close this off. But it was too hard to try to get this thing on here, push down enough to make a seal by just pushing it in through this hole. Okay. Okay, I'm going to check in the back. It looks pretty flush. Keep pushing, pushing. Oh. Okay, this looks pretty good. And I've got the hose on this plastic outlet or inlet, and I'm going to tighten that up. All right, we got that on, those three things. Got this screwed down. All right, so now we're going to attach the drain hose here. There you go. We've got these two wires. One goes here and one goes further below down here. You can see on this little opening here, there's a little metal tab all the way to the left and one in the middle. It gives you an idea how these have to line up. You only have one connector on the right here, so the one that's to this side, put in like this. Snug that in there. And then this one can only fit in one way because it has these little teeth on the side. It's going to fit in like this, with the teeth going in this direction. And there's a little tab on here that was on here that flips over the top of that wire. Okay, I don't know if we should tie these together. Maybe we'll put a little clamp on here. There's nothing moving down here, so I'm not going to get in the way of anything. And you see before, this is that box I took off with the wires. These three wires go to the unit. It's just in here with this screw hanging. And that electric wire will come from the ground back up and connect into here. This is the bottom, this is the back of the washer down here. The only way to test this is to connect the inlet water here, elevate the drain, and go into a garbage disposal or a bucket. I'll just reconnect it all and then connect the electric wire. I'm not going to push it all the way back in the cabinet because I want to make sure it doesn't leak. So let's do that. Another thing to show you on this side is there's like a little corner to hold your insulation, just a little slot. So you look over here, your insulation just fits over this thing. It catches it. So when you're pushing it in, since this is the back down here, the insulation won't slide forward. So just try to tuck everything back in. You see a little notch here, I guess that goes down like this. Make sure it pretty much looks folded. So this will hook on here. This little hook, you just kind of push it underneath there, just so it won't pull forward. See it hooked. Okay, I have it all nice and wrapped up. That'll just hold down side insulation. Let's go push it over. So when you look underneath here, you can see back here in the middle, over here on this side, kind of follow this line, it's clear. So I'm going to get my water line and my electric line and duct tape them to the ground. So as push this back in, they're not going to get all tangled up. Okay, and if you look at it from the back, you can see that this opening, that's where I want my cables to go through. So I'm going to try to straighten these up. And I took this opportunity to put some caulk in that hole. case there's any critters running around in the walls. We're ready to push it back. I'm going to push the drain hose that connects to the garbage disposal in as far as I can. And as I push the dishwasher in, I'll pull this through some more. Okay. Alright, as you're pushing this in, I have a piece of foam up underneath here to fill the gap up here. So whatever you have, just push it. Make sure it's going down underneath and that this insulation isn't bunching up. Should go in real easily. Okay, now I need to pull on that drain hose. Okay, everything lined up pretty well. I pulled this drain hose through. Took the slack out of it. We'll just put this back together like we found it. They're in there. I'm going to soak up the ground. We have all the wires connected again. Let's put the top on this and pop it back up in there. Want to make sure the wire, heavy wire, is fed to the back correctly. Not binding on anything. This back tab goes way in the back here. Where'd the screw go? There we go. And you should be able to turn that connector by hand a significant amount and then just tighten it down. First thing we're going to do is put the parts together inside the tub. Then we're going to turn the water on just to make sure that's not leaking. The water's not going to go anywhere past that switch. Then we'll turn the electricity on, smoke test. And then I'm either going to run through a diagnostic cycle or I'm just going to put it on rinse only. See what happens. I had a little trouble getting it pushed back in there, and what happened is this popped off. This sits in a little groove. You need to make sure it's stuck in there correctly. Check it all the way around the top and side. So as I'm trying to align this, you see these tabs are sticking out. And it's going to take those vertical legs to go up a lot higher to get back in place where that tab will be by its hole again. So don't worry too much about that yet. All right, so let's put this back together. This little piece, when it goes back on, there's a little notch on the top. Looks like a little battery notch. There's a little indentation on this slot, this side. So it only goes on in one direction. Right there. Next thing we put on is this piece. That's going to screw in the star screws. Some little slots on here too to help you align this, but we know they have to face toward the back. We'll slot it in And this little hook here, that hook goes over this and slots down. So we'll start about right here and turn it. Here we go. Goes over here. All right, and this has to go back in. So this one goes in this front hole. This goes in here. Sort of wiggle them in there. All right, and then we're going to push push this back arm going up the tabs to lock it in place. You can see the metal tabs here. It sort of presses in. And there's another set up here, right here. And you can see up here, there's little arms that those little tabs fit in. Okay, that should be good. Put this spinner on. And it locks in place easily. It's harder to get off, but get it on, you can feel it snap in. One thing left to do. I looked inside my parts container, I'm like, oh my gosh, where'd that go to? Yeah, that goes to the side of the garbage disposal. I had temporarily put some tape on here. Still some leakage, so we could still use the sink without using the garbage disposal. All right, I have the tube coming out of the wall, wrapping around and attached here with this clamp. It's not threaded or anything, so when you're under the sink, be careful you're not yanking on this or you will yank it off. Test number one, turn the water on. Crazily installed right next to the plug. No dripping. Okay, test two, turn the power on. So I have to have a plan A to shut off. If I see something leaking or whatever, I guess throw the breaker and then shut the water off. I think what I'll do is just run the diagnostic first part of it. I hear water going in. Oh, I see a drip. I see a leak. Bummer. That boot is leaking, but on the other hand, it's turning. That boot is dripping. It didn't seal well, so I'm going to pull it back out. Here I am back at the table again. It was a lot easier to get everything apart the second time. It's a breeze. I'm fairly certain the problem was this thing. You know, when these rubber pieces, they go through a lot of thermal expansion, hot, cold, and they sort of develop a molecular memory. And I pulled this off a couple times, put it on. I think that was the cause of the leak, number one. Number two, I'm not sure I got the great fit. So I bought a new one, and it's a lot firmer. But this is a lot more rigid rubber, so I think the fit's going to be a lot tighter. Hopefully that's where it was, but it was coming on either side of this little boot. So I'm going to put it on here first, and then I'm going to put some water around the edge like a lubricant, and push it on to the tube in the bottom of the dishwasher. I thought about gluing it on, but you know, I haven't seen anybody do that, so I think I'll stay away from that. So I'm pressing it as far down as it'll go, so it bottoms out. Okay, so that did push on and make the seal better. It's because it's so hard, and I pushed on the bottom here, just went as one piece instead of being pliable. Okay, finally, people in the house are running out of patience for me to fix this dishwasher. It took a couple more days for me to get parts, and I was going to replace this hose, which I think is why it was leaking the second time. This hose runs anywhere between $80 to $100 online. That's outrageous. So when I put it back on, I used one of these clamps, but it was thick, and I don't think it made a good seal, and it was a problem. And when I looked at the part number, I realized the clamp that it needs are 4/16 or 5/16 width in this direction, and 1 1/4 diameter hole. Oh, I ordered them, supposed to come overnight. They take 3 days. I finally found these clamps at Home Depot. These are cinch clamps. So you put them on, and then there's a little plateau here, and you get this little cinch tool like a pliers and squeeze it, and it actually bends them closed. And that's similar to the clamps that were on here. And then I found these clamps online, and I've tested them, and they're really solid in terms of, these are called either circle clamps or worm drive clamps. And when the screw turns, the screw has threads, and it just lines up in these little slots. And I thought, tested this, and they're really strong. They just took days to get here instead of overnight. Hopefully this fixes the drip. This was the clamp that came on the hose. It's a cinch clamp. You get a little tool, pinch it closed. So when you want to take it off, you have to throw it away. I tried this first. This seemed to be too wide. And I tried this one, which was narrower. And I think what I learned also was that the rubber had degraded in the hose, so I needed some silicone sealant in there. And this one came in. These are like 50 cents or $1. That's more expensive. I think this one was like $7, $8, but you can see the model number that worked. And when we put this hose back on, you see similar except for this lip. This lip is going to go on the back here. You see that little tab sticking up? There's another one right past it. And that's where this fits in. This little thing's going to line up and fit inside there. Yeah, so when I put this in, see that little tab? It'll go up in here. And you can feel it with your hand, but it goes between that little tab right there, and there's 2 of them. Okay, let's put this back on. And get that in there between the tabs. Okay, so I think we'll do tighten one up, readjust the other side, and then tighten it. You see the hose, and you see this has little ribs on it, I'm going to put some silicone sealant that's food grade, doesn't have any chemicals in there. In case there's some burrs or something in here, it's going to make a nice seal that this can clamp onto. Going to take a day to dry, but you can see in this clamp it has impressions of the old pinch-on clamp still, but it's not on the inside. I think for the sake of it being a mess, I'm going to put the silicone on the inside and just have it push up under here, because I think it's going to get all messed up if I don't do that. I bought this Silbond or TV 6500 high temp silicone sealant. It says make 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch sort of layer. I just want something for it to grip besides that pipe. I'll just spread it around like that. Okay. Let's push that up in there. Put that new clamp on. Hopefully it goes on perfectly. Nice and smooth. I mean, it has got to be a seal. That's pretty symmetric all the way around. Pushed up. I'm going to let that sit for a day. Okay, I'm not an appliance repairman or an electrician, so you do this at your own risk. I connected a pressure hose, leftover one from my washing machine, and I connected another piece of Romex. I'm going to black tape that up, and I'm going to connect everything out here, put the drain hose in the bucket, and I'm going to run it out here, because this is the 4th time I brought it out, and I'm tired of pushing it all the way back and wiring it up. At least here I can see there's a drip, and then just shut everything off and tip it over real quickly. Put a hose here, and I bought a 90-degree elbow so that hose could connect. Taped off the wires, and I just ran a rinse cycle for a few minutes, and it drained out, and there's no leak underneath it. If it was leaking, it would be right about here where it's been. Once again, I'm running the diagnostic before I push it back in the hole. Make sure when it goes to drain, you don't overflow your bucket. It's running, and it's not leaking. I didn't put the base plate on yet, because I want to keep peeking underneath there. Here you see the cost breakdown of the project. It cost me $163 plus some time searching for part numbers and so forth. And I learned a lot. No disasters. One step forward, 2 steps back in terms of those rubber pieces that I managed to fix. It would at least have cost me $700 from a repair person estimate if they found the problem the first time, and you know, they had the right clamps and hoses. It's hard to pay that much when the dishwasher's 6 years old. Looks brand new still, but it only cost $1,000. So I think I did a good job. Here you are, still running. Beautiful. Cleaning everything. Two weeks running, no problem.